Just 6 games left, Mets fans. After a season full of drama, the question is simple. Can this team finish strong and get into October? The rotation, it's in flux. The young arms, they are stepping up, and Juan Soto, he's putting together an MVP-like season. Every game now feels like win or go home. We're breaking it all down right here on Straight Outta Flushing. Mets fans, this week has been a mix of more pitching trouble and a championship celebration down on the farm. So let's dive into all of it on this week's 7-line report. First, the bad news out of the bullpen. Reed Garrett is heading back to the injured list with an elbow sprain, and it gets worse. Both Garrett and Tyler McGill have been recommended for Tommy John surgery. If those reports hold, that means the Mets could lose 2 more arms for all of next season. Now, this year was already a grind for the pitching staff, and now the outlook for 2026 just got cloudier. And then there's Kodai Senga. He took the mound for his second start in AAA after that stunning demotion, and the results were not pretty. He labored, couldn't find his command, and afterwards he admitted he still doesn't feel ready to return. This is a tough situation for the Mets. Your ace is in the minors in mid-September. The rotation is already shorthanded, and there's no timeline for when he's back to form. The organization now has to decide if it's worth trying to force him back or if this season just isn't meant to be his. But let's finish on some good news, because the kids in Brooklyn, they just brought home a title. The Cyclones, they are 2025 South Atlantic League champions. It's the 3rd title in team history, and it's another sign that the Mets farm system is showing real promise. Guys are getting used to winning in big moments, and for an organization trying to build something sustainable, that definitely matters. So, to sum it up, Garrett and McGill, they look headed for surgery. Senga, he's still searching for answers, but the Cyclones, they are raising a trophy. It's been a week that really shows both sides of the Mets story in 2025, the frustration at the major league level, and the hope that may be brewing with the next generation. Okay, it's time for Dugout discussions with the Mets season coming down to the final 6 games. We had to bring in a voice who lives and breathes this Mets team. Might not be good for him right now because people don't feel so good about the Mets, but he's an MLB content creator and the host of the Mets'd Up Podcast. It's Marc Luino. Marc joins me now to talk about the state of the Amazons, from everything. We're going to talk rotation questions, the bullpen, defense, and whether this team can still close strong and punch a ticket to October. Marc, how's it going, my friend?
Doing well, Dexter. Thanks for having me on. Things have been better. I would prefer we were talking about a series win today, but that's not the case. That was a disappointing one, to say the least.
Marc, obviously talking about the Mets' weekend series loss to the Nationals, where they lost 2 out of 3 games. And Marc, I'm going to get right into it because this is where we're at. You heard me just mention it. They have 6 games left. We know this has been such an up and down season. Roller coaster might be a better term that I should use here. But when you look at the up and down season, when you look at the fact they just lost 2 out of 3 to the Nationals at home, what would it mean for this franchise just to simply get in and play October baseball?
I mean, I think it would at least let the fan base sleep well at night for a couple nights. It's just been incredibly stressful. This season's had, like you said, it's been a roller coaster. It's been up and down more than I can remember in recent years. And I think for this team, mentally, it would do a lot just to get into the playoffs. I think it would take a little pressure off them, and maybe we'll start to see them actually reach that potential that we think they can. This team is too good to be playing as poorly as they are. You can see guys are pressing. You can see that they understand what is going on and how big every single game is right now. So I'm hoping maybe just by getting to the playoffs, we can actually see them take a deep breath and play some real loose, fun baseball again.
Hey, Marc, they need a deep breath. They need something right now. I don't know what it is, but they need something right now. Let me ask you this as a follow-up, because there's going to be some fans, and I've talked to some members of the fan base that say, well, hey, Dex, this team hasn't played good. They just lost 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. That's a team you should beat. You should take care of home. This team doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. What do you say to that? Do the Mets deserve to be in the playoff, and does deserve have anything to do with it at all?
I mean, thanks to the new wild card, a lot of teams get in that don't deserve to be there. I'd like to be one of those teams that people think doesn't deserve to be there and gets in. I mean, last year we kind of got lucky too with how we made the postseason. Once you get there, you're playing with house money, and I think that's kind of the attitude the Mets need to have. It's not been a good season by any means. There has been ups. There have been moments where they looked like one of the best teams in baseball. Recently, it's been bad, but I don't think the Reds deserve to be there. I don't think the Giants, I don't think the Diamondbacks. I think we are better than those teams. It's just at some point, they need to show it and step up in these final 6 games. No better time to prove that they deserve to be there than right now.
Amen. No better time than now. You were right about that. We'll see if they can prove it over these final 6 games. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about the pitching here with the Mets, okay? Because Kodai Senga, struggled in his second AAA rehab outing, and he even admitted that he doesn't feel ready right now. Should the Mets shut him down, or should the fans and the Mets keep hoping that he can contribute with the big club if they make the playoffs? What do you say?
I've kind of put in my head that maybe Kodai's season at the major league level might be over. I think right now, hearing all the stuff that he said, even over the last couple months, he just feels like he hasn't been right since coming back from that injury during the season. The version that we're seeing of Kodai Senga doesn't really help this team. He's not getting outs. He's struggling against AAA guys. And that's shocking to say because of how good he was just a few years ago. But if he's not feeling right, if he's not able to perform, I don't think the Mets should be forcing him onto this roster until he's right. That being said, keep working. We still have a full week where he can maybe hopefully start to feel a little bit better, because if we do get that version of Kodai where he feels comfortable, where he's sharp, he's a weapon. We know how good he can be. Just need to see that version of it. It's kind of the story of this entire team, honestly. Everybody, it's like once we get these guys right, we know we can make some noise, similar with Kodai.
Yeah, it just feels like you've been waiting for everybody to get right. You know, that's the thing. You're just like, hey, can everybody get right? And at the same time, can they put it all together? We've been questioning that all season long. Now, keeping it on the pitching front, Nolan McLean. He's been impressive, but also raw. We understand where he is right now. How much trust would you put in him if he's a potential win-or-go-home game starter? How much trust would you have in him right now?
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I have PTSD from what's been going on with the pitching this year, but I think Nolan McLean, he's the guy. He is the best pitcher in this rotation. I think he has shown he can go into Philly. He can go into different environments, pitch big games. I think he is a big game pitcher, and I do think he's extremely talented. I hate that we have to put this much pressure on him in his rookie season, expecting him to just be that guy, like you mentioned, a win or go home game. It's a lot for someone who was just pitching for the first time, full time in his entire career. But at the same time, everything that he's shown us leads me to believe that he can be that guy. He can be that stopper. He can be that ace. We kind of have no other choice. I don't trust anybody else more than Nolan McLean right now. So, yeah, I think he's our win or go home guy if we need it.
Man, that is a statement. I don't trust anybody else more than Nolan McLean right now. That says a lot. I'm not saying that's a bad thing for Nolan McLean. I'm not saying that's bad at all, Mark. I'm just saying that says a lot, as you said, about where this Mets pitching staff is and what kind of season this has been for the Mets thus far. Now, Jonah Tong bounced back nicely after a rough start. We saw that from him. He looks like a playoff option. What do you think his role should be going forward, whether it's just for this last week or beyond?
I think right now he's pitched well enough to continue to get the opportunities. I think ultimately, if we do get to the postseason, right now this kind of is the postseason for us. We're tied with the Reds. They have the tiebreaker. We need to win as many baseball games as possible till the end of the season to give us a chance to get there. If he can give us 4 innings, if he can give us 5, I think you gotta see what you have out of him. But the Mets should be getting creative. If Jonah Tong struggles or he has a rough first inning again, get the next guy up ready to go. But I do love what we've seen off of Tong so far. The fact that he was able to bounce back after that really awful start against the Rangers and then bounce back in his last start that he made. That to me shows me that he's tough, shows me that he's a gamer, shows me that I think we can give him the ball in a big game. Again, I hate that we have to do it. But that kind of makeup at such a young age, only 22 years old, you don't see that too often. So I do have a lot of faith and confidence in Jonah Tong as a pitcher. I just wish we had other options where it didn't fall on the shoulders of a 22-year-old as well.
Okay, so it seems like you and I are on the same page with this, right? I have some confidence in the young guys. I'm going to do something later in the show about why I think you got to go with them as starters if the Mets make the playoffs. You have to. I think they're your best options. More to come on that later, but it seems like you and I are on the same page here, Mark. Okay. So now let's talk about some vets here. We've seen Sean Manaea and Clay Holmes used as piggyback starters. I guess my first thing for you here is, Mark, do you like that approach for both pitchers? And do you think it's something that the Mets should deploy if they make it in the postseason?
Yeah, I love it. I've been clamoring for it along with my co-host James on Mets'd Up, saying that we know that Manaea is not the pitcher that he was last year. We know he's got the bone chips in his elbow. He's clearly not as strong as we need him to be. And for Clay Holmes, he's just simply thrown more innings than he could have ever imagined probably going into the season. So for these guys to max out 60, 70 pitches, full throttle, I think that's the best way to handle this, especially because if they can even go 7 innings combined or 6 innings combined, the bullpen, while it's been shaky, there are enough arms where you can get to Edwin Diaz, hopefully at the end of the game. And while they lost today doing the piggybacking, wasn't their fault. Manaea gave up the 3 runs, and then they kind of shut the door. They lost 3-2 to the Nationals. The 2 times, or I guess now 3 times, because if you go back to Kansas City when they first tried it, it's been pretty successful in terms of results on the pitching side. We just didn't get hitting in 2 of those games. So I love the idea. I love getting creative for it. And for a guy like Manaea and Holmes, both who probably can't go deep into games, I like them trying to maximize those few pitches that they do have every single time they're out there.
Yeah, I think it could be a good move. It'd be interesting to see if the Mets use this in the playoffs. If they get there, what game would they use it in? How would they deploy it? Could be very interesting, but it's an option, and you got to like that for now. Okay, so when you look at this rotation right now, Mark, how do you evaluate it knowing Senga's uncertainty right now in terms of whether he'll be here or back? The young guns, they just got here. And then the fact we know there's no true workhorse ace right now for the team. So how do you evaluate this pitching rotation?
Chaos. I think we just have to embrace the chaos. Like, if Nolan McLean is going to be our frontline guy and he's going to give us 6, we take that 6. If David Peterson's only got 3 good innings, I think he's got 3 good innings. We got to look to who's next. I think that's what we need to see from Mendoza, Stearns, the organization as a whole. We can't wait for these guys to turn into the pitchers that we hope they are. If we can maximize their production and what they do in a smaller sample, and we might have to use more arms, sure, it's terrifying. I don't think anybody wants to hear that. I wish these guys could go deep into games. I wish we could have a starter go 7 and we have to get 6 outs from the bullpen. But it hasn't been like that almost all year. And we're going on a couple months now where there's almost nobody who can go deep into a game. So I think you just kind of have to embrace the chaos and hope that the Mets are just better, which is absolutely terrifying to say.
Hey, a lot of terror, embrace the chaos. I like that. That might have to be the motto for the Mets fans, at least over the final week and however long it goes past that. Embrace the chaos. That's been the name of the season. That might be the name of this episode. We might have to go with that. All right, let's go to the pen. Ryan Helsley. He's put together some clean innings, right? Finally looking like the guy that the Mets traded for. So, Mark, do you trust him right now as a reliable bridge to Edwin Diaz in October, or are you like, hey, I need to see more over these final 6 games?
I definitely need to see more, but also at the same time, I think the only other guys I trust truly outside of Edwin Diaz are Brooks Raley and Tyler Rogers at this point, which at least that's, 2 more guys than just Edwin Diaz. But Helsley has looked better. It is encouraging. I think the tipping is over, which is probably the biggest thing since they knew what was coming, and it was obvious based on how he was performing. He's been too good in his career to be the pitcher that he had been with the Mets. I'm hoping he's able to turn the corner like we've seen the last few appearances, because if he can be that big arm for us, it makes the game even shorter. And again, with the chaos of this starting pitching, they don't have to be forced to go longer into these games. You can make the game shorter. Leads are more protected. He's too good. He's too good. I don't trust him yet, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
All right. Closer to the trust. We'll see. I think Mets fans got a little PTSD and some trust issues with Ryan Helsley right now. We'll see if he can complete the full turnaround. You know what will have fans trusting him, Mark? Seeing him pitch well if they get to the postseason, in the postseason. That's when fans will get back on board and start trusting him again. But he's got a ways to go, so does the team. We'll see if they can get there. Now, defense. Got to talk about defense. It has been a problem with this Mets team all season. I think for all of us who make content around the team, cover the team, we know it. It reared its ugly head again on Saturday against the Nationals. When you look at these defensive issues and these mistakes that we've seen, Mark, is this something that can be cleaned up here in just a week, or is it just who the Mets are at this point? We've also seen outfielders have issues with not holding runners. We've seen all this stuff. We've seen, balls booted in the infield, in the outfield. Is this something that can be cleaned up, or the Mets just are who they are defensively?
They might just be a bad defensive team. But behind the plate, they've been great this year, obviously throwing out runners. And Francisco Lindor still is a phenomenal defensive shortstop. But Juan Soto, I love him. This is not anything bad on him, but he's not a good defensive outfielder. Great arm, but he doesn't have the most range out there. A little bit disappointed in what happened with Mullins on Saturday. I was shocked how poorly he played that baseball. And Nimmo's been kind of weird in left field. The outfield defense feels more concerning to me than the infield defense, because when you have Beatty at third, when you have McNeil at second with Lindor at short, it's a pretty good defensive infield. But the fact that there are outs that are not being made or routine plays, and again, goes back to the pitching too. This pitching is not as sharp as we need it to be. We cannot afford to give teams extra outs. And right now the Mets are giving away way too many extra outs.
Yeah, can't afford to do that at all. And you know when you can't afford to do that? In the postseason if you make it. They can't have that happen at all whatsoever. Now, Mark, we talked about Ryan Helsley, and we know he hasn't been good until recently since coming over here to Queens. But Cedric Mullins, he's also been a disappointment as well. You just mentioned his error in center field on Saturday. The center field position, it's a huge question mark for this team right now, and it has been for quite some time. So how big of a priority do you think it will be for the Mets to address that position this upcoming offseason? Is it time to do something about center field? Because that has not been a position of stability for the Mets in the last couple of years.
I think the fun answer would be yes, but I think unfortunately the boring, annoying answer is that they trust their internal options in the minors. I think they're super high on Carson Bench, just like everybody in Major League Baseball. So I think they're hoping at some point he can be there next year. And the fact that Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri are still under contract next season, I think kind of shows where the Mets are going to be going. Now, I don't know who's going to be back. I don't know what option they end up ultimately going with, but I do think that their plan is hopefully to have Carson Bench be on this major league roster earlier in the season than later, based on how well he's been in the minor leagues. You also still have Jet Williams, who's played a little bit of center field at times. I think, unfortunately, for a lot of Mets fans who want that marquee center fielder, I think they're going to stay in-house and just keep on going with the process that David Stearns has shown us, which is building up that farm and using those guys.
Yeah, that's what the Mets have shown they want to do. So don't expect any free agent splashes in terms of a center fielder this offseason. Who knows? Maybe it's different, but it looks like they're going to rely on the kids. Been going good so far with the pitching. We'll see how it goes with position players. All right, Mark, a couple more for me. 6 games left. All right, 3 in the Windy City against the Cubs this week, then down to South Beach to battle the Marlins. What are you going to keep your eye on with this team over the final 6 games? And I think the key series looking here, we just saw the Cubs. They got swept by the Reds. What's the key to the Mets beating the Cubs and just doing well over these final 6 games?
I think they just simply have to show up. The Cubs are a good baseball team, but the Mets kind of have, it feels like, an issue at times of showing up to the field and being the team that we know they can be. You see a game on Friday night, they score a ton of runs. They beat the Nationals easily. They're the better team. Then you see the next 2 games, and you're super disappointed. I need this team to show up. I need some energy. I need some fight out of this team. We know that they're playing hard. We know they're trying to win games. We can see Mark Vientos ejected today on a check swing call, slamming the bat. There is frustration there. But we need to see that energy, that frustration used positively to get more. Run the bases well, play clean baseball, go out, be the better team, win the game. Don't look for the Cubs to give you the game. Go out there and win it. That's what I want to see from the Mets. And also, I do want to see Carlos Mendoza. I think he's actually done a pretty good job these last few series or so, managing, making decisions. These are playoff games. There might not be games left at the end of the season. You have to look to win every single game here out. And even then, if the Reds win out, you don't make it. So you got to keep playing good, hard baseball.
Got to keep doing that. And you're right. The Mets, they do not control their own destiny at the time we are recording this and before this episode drops on the off day for the Mets. So that kind of brings me to the last thing here, Mark, because they don't control their own destiny. 6 games left to go in the season. Do the Mets close this season strong, and do they make the playoffs? What do you say, yay or nay?
I have to say yay, just because it's not fun to say nay. I want to believe in this team. It's no fun to think that this team doesn't have a chance. And truthfully, they have a really good shot. If you win 4 of 6, there's a good chance you're in. You win 5 of 6, 6 of 6, your odds get even better. I am going to believe until it's completely over, and that's probably my famous last words. But again, this team on paper should be so much better, and maybe getting on the road loosens them up a little bit. I know they've been horrible on the road this year, but maybe it's time that changes. I will say I'm having nightmares about that series in Miami. I know the Marlins are just absolutely seething to end our season. So hopefully we just play strong, better baseball than these teams. And you got to believe. I hate to be cliche, but you got to believe.
You are being cliche, but I will tell you what you're not being. I don't think you're wrong for being afraid about that final 3 games in Miami. We've seen this movie before. Right? We've seen what's happened to the Mets against the Marlins to end the season, this time being here on the road. We'll see how this all plays out. All right, so you believe, real quick in a follow-up, how important is the first couple of games of the series against the Cubs, right? Because you don't want to get into a situation, Mark, where the Mets lose Tuesday or Wednesday and then, bad vibes start creeping in. A lot of attention won't be on the Mets for how they've played in September because if you're in Detroit, you see what the Tigers are doing. But that's probably taking some pressure a little bit off the Mets. But how important is it for them to play well, particularly against the Cubs in those first couple of games?
Oh, yeah, they have to win. They're must-win baseball games. I think anytime you lose, all of a sudden you are giving you're giving the other teams the opportunity to move ahead of you, which I think that's straightforward. Everybody knows it. But the Mets win, it puts the pressure on the other teams. You cannot afford to lose the first two games of the series. They're must-win. Every game is must-win the rest of the season. Every day you can reassess where the standings are, what it looks like, and determine how much of a must-win game it is. But right now, Tuesday is the biggest game of the entire season. They have to come out and win that one.
Nah, you're right about that. And we'll see if the Mets can set the tone on Tuesday night and for the rest of the week. They have 6 games left, which means Mark and the rest of the Mets fans are going to be extremely stressed out this week. So I'm just hoping for good vibes for people like you and everybody else, not too stressed. And hopefully the Mets win some games. You can breathe a little easier. And by the time you get to the weekend, you're not too stressed watching them in South Beach. That is Marc Luino. Check him out. Great Major League Baseball content creator, also co-host of the Mets'd Up Pod. Please check that out. Does a great job there. Mark, first time having you on Straight Outta Flushing. I appreciate you. Love the work. Keep up the good stuff and stay blessed and not stressed.
Appreciate the invite. Thank you, guys. Let's go Mets.
So this week's Mets Mention takes us from the violin to the voice of a generation. 2 very different pregame moments, but both unforgettable. On Tuesday night, Francisco Lindor's wife, Katia, graced Citi Field with a beautiful violin performance of the national anthem. And talk about setting the stage. Her performance was followed by Lindor launching a home run later that night against the Padres. Baseball fans saying it was the Lindor duet, music before the game and music off his bat during the game. Then on Thursday, the Amazins, they got a visit from a hip-hop legend. The one and only friend of the show, Chuck D, the lead lyricist of Public Enemy, took the mound for the ceremonial first pitch. And listen, if you're a hip-hop head and you know Public Enemy, then you know the man's message. Don't believe the hype. But Mets fans, believe this. The sight of one of New York's iconic rap voices representing Queens baseball was a moment that surely was dope. So, whether it was strings or rhymes, this week showed us how baseball at Citi Field is more than just a game. It's family. It's culture. It's New York. This Mets team gets into October. There's only one answer to who should be starting games. It's the kids. Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, and Brandon Sproat. Yeah, I know. They're young. They're green. But they're also your best chance to win. So, let's break it all down. Let's start with Nolan McLean. This guy's been nothing short of an ace. Look at the numbers. .64 ERA the second and third time through the order. Hitters, they're batting just .168 against him in those spots. That's not just impressive for a rookie. That's elite ace stuff. He's shown maturity, adjusting on the fly, and with Senga struggling in AAA, Peterson tired, and veterans like Manaea and Holmes needing to be piggybacked, McLean, he's got to be your number one. Now, let's talk Jonah Tong. He got hit hard a couple of weeks ago, but what did he do? Bounced right back. That's maturity. That matters. Since then, he's held opposing hitters to a .182 average his second time through the order with a strikeout rate that says he can handle the big stage. Yeah, his numbers with runners on haven't been pretty, an 11.05 ERA in those spots, but October, it's about trusting guys who can miss bats. Tong's swing and miss stuff makes him an intriguing playoff weapon. And then there's Brandon Sproat. Now look, his numbers with runners on, they're rough. I won't lie, a .320 batting average against and a 9 ERA. But here's the flip side. Against righties with runners in scoring position, he's held them to a .200 average. The talent here is real. The struggles come from inexperience pitching out of the stretch. That's something you live with because the arm is electric and experience is only built by throwing him out there. Here's the bottom line. The vets, they aren't healthy or reliable. Senga, he doesn't feel ready. Manaea and Holmes, they're spot starters at best right now, and this season has been defined by inconsistency. But these 3 young guns, they've been the spark, and the future is now. October isn't about playing it safe. It's about riding the guys who give you the best shot. And right now, that's McLean, Tong, and Sproat. Let them start. Let them learn. Let them cook. And who knows, maybe they can carry you further than anyone expected. This isn't time to talk about the same old Mets. This right now is a new era. And if the Mets are going to make noise in October, it's because the kids took the ball and did their thing with it. That's going to do it for this edition of Straight Outta Flushing. Thanks to the people who make this show look so good. Producer Erica Block, associate producer Heather Bonsignore, production assistant Tabi Cohen, and editor Eduardo Guerrero. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next week after the regular season finale on another edition of Straight Outta Flushing.